As I did say earlier, we will be bringing you up to speed with events at the Udenta Plaza today when our correspondent Friday Okirigbe joins us. But right now in our studios, we have Professor Udenta here, who is the founding national secretary of Alliance for Democracy. And some people say that at the very heart, I have to say, Happy International Men's Day.
Thank you so much. I've been excited with the conversation so far.
My head, on a platter of silver.
Absolutely.
But here we are. Yes. This is a conversation that is now, is now digging down to democracy. Because some people say at the heart of what we're looking at here is conversation around Nigeria's democracy. Yes, we're looking at a fight for the soul of the PDP. Will it survive? Will it not survive? We had seen a slew, or will I say a plethora of court judgments given a week prior to the holding of the convention in Ibadan. But that convention, defiant as ever, went on, it held, and now we're seeing the leadership that emerged from that convention going to stake their claim at the Udenta Plaza. We're also seeing that the other people who said there will be no convention, the INEC faction, say that there was not going to be any convention. As a matter of fact, they took an announcement. They announced to members of the PDP that it had been cancelled. These are some of the things that we saw. So they were also there at the Udenta Plaza, and they have now announced their own list of expulsion, and the battle goes on. And I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are wondering, how will this all end, and how will this affect our democracy? Can you make a projection?
Well, thanks for having me, and hello, Nigerians. I'm happy the way you framed this conversation as a struggle for the soul, not just of a party, but for the direction, the content and direction of our democracy. It's still a very young democracy, 26 years in the making, so it's still nascent in a way. The institutions are not very strong. The structural mechanisms underpinning these institutions, I say, wobbly sometimes. Sometimes it's not even a nation of laws that we have, but a nation of men, again, men implicated in this kind of drama. Because PDP is a legacy party, that is why it is commanding this kind of interest. Smaller parties, for example, born years after this in the democratic run, may not command this kind of presence. PDP is in every home in Nigeria, in every village, in every hamlet. So whatever happens to it actually affects the overall health of our democracy. So it's important that people are worried about what is going on in the party. But I'm not going to dwell today substantially on the intra-party crisis, the factional battles, well deposited in the media. People know. I'm going to look at the role of state institutions and agencies, either in containing this crisis or driving this crisis. We take INEC, for example. The Damagu-led NWC, before the convention, wrote to INEC and said, we are suspended 4 members or so of our NWC. INEC acknowledged it later. Then Abdurrahman emerged as the factional chairman and wrote to INEC and said, we don't recognize this other suspension. We too have suspended 7 characters in the NWC. Respect our views. I'm the new national chairman. But INEC has a very well-resourced legal department, as it should. Because electoral processes and elections and parties are full of litigations. We're a litigious society when it comes to parties and elections and so on. So the legal department is well developed. And they have deep bench in terms of external consultants and legal contractors who help them. Within 48 hours, INEC has a capacity to issue an opinion. INEC did issue an opinion today on the leadership task before the courts even waiting. Because INEC is dragged to every case a party has. INEC is not going to wait on the court to say, oh, what do you say? INEC has a position. When it comes to the INEC legal representative, this is INEC's stand on this matter. It's not that INEC is mumu to say, it's what the court says we will do. What INEC stands for may be wrong ultimately, but they have to stand on something. We have to ask INEC, using the instrumentality of this platform here, what is INEC's position on the leadership crisis in PDP before the convention?
Especially because it's a regulator.
As a regulator. Yes. Because if INEC, like my brother, Prof. Sam Amadi said, I read in the other day, said, if INEC had done its job, this is where we stand, right or wrong, based on our own legal scrutiny of the issues. Damagu is the chairman because we know that IU was a chairman. He left as a chairman. Damagu failed that position. we cannot see any compelling legal ground to remove him. If you make that pronouncement, you can even say that the secretary was not duly suspended or suspended. But do something. He didn't do something. That's the first strategic failure of the Professor Mopitan-led INEC. Because, as I said, the Oka election, the previous Professor Soludo for a second term, was not of his own making. It was already baked in. He had to finalize it. But this one is actually the first text, and people are not talking about it. So INEC silence is very, very crucial to the drama at Wadata Plaza, to the complication that engulf the party. That's number one. Number two, the police.
Just before you get to the police, do you think they're speaking silently, though? Because there were claims that INEC was not at the Ibadan convention.
I'm coming to that. INEC sent a lawyer to the Ibadan court and said, we have other court decisions in Abuja stopping us from monitoring this convention, which is not a legal, serious legal issue anyway, because if you have the 21-day notice, INEC may monitor or not monitor, it doesn't matter. The court said, I will not rule for you today on the eve of the convention. I will rule after. So it was INEC decision, like I said, to say, we will not attend the convention for certain compelling legal reasons we have. So if INEC could reach that conclusion, that we will not attend the convention, why will INEC reach a conclusion about the leadership crisis in the party well ahead of that convention? As it is its own right as a regulator. If INEC calls a meeting of PDP today, calls a meeting of the political parties, who would INEC invite from the PDP? Damagu, the original chairman, Turaki, the elected chairman, or Abdurrahman? That silence is very crucial because it is giving a lot of people concern that Amupita, why are you created and brought in to do this in INEC? This is a very clear signal that you must be courageous to take a decision, no matter how palatable it may be.
Okay.
You don't go to the police.
Indeed.
Turaki, the new INEC, the new PDP chairman, went to the police. Everybody saw it and said, we are worried that some people who are not members of our party are advertising a meeting of Wadata Plaza. We want to let you know, put you on notice, that we have a proper meeting constituted by the party to hold a center, same time, like your reporter pointed out. For me, the objective thing for the police to do with me, here is this group about to hold a meeting at Wadata Plaza. Here is another group about to hold a meeting at Wadata Plaza. Same day, same time. You err on the side of caution. That means even if I respect and recognize you, Tanimu Turaki's son as the chairman of the party, but I'm fearful there will be confrontation and maybe a bloodbath or breaking of law and order. You shut down the secretariat. That's the worst you could have done. Cut down the place off overnight so that by early morning nobody will have access. I asked him when I asked Nigerians, the Anyangu faction were there almost 5 a.m. in the morning. And there's police in Abuja, DSS in Abuja. How did they gain entry? When already a complaint had been laid a night before. I'm not for nor against. You should have shut the place. I didn't do it. You opened the doors for a faction to penetrate. And we saw it on the screen here. They were seated comfortably before 7 a.m. Now, before the other group came in there to take rightful their possession, the police commissioner, the deputy police commissioner who led the operation there, all the police people involved there, either they go through court-martial or indicted by the IGP and the police council. Look at the kind of tear gas canisters some governors, former governors. We know what happened to Chubok Adibo some 2 decades or so ago. Tear gas inhalation, casually thrown everywhere. So the second institution failed woefully, the police. Now we'll come to the third institution. Mugbe, and everybody watching. The president of a country, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, appointed ministers, special advisors, heads of commissions, director generals, and maybe soon, if they wake up from slumber, ambassadors. They're all answerable to the president. The moment you accept a job as a minister of the Federal Republic, you speak for the president, you act for the president, you represent the president. Let us do some issues of enlightenment and education here. Yesterday, on the news on weekend, the minister of FCT did not go to Wadata Plaza. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, went there. It is not the minister that went there. It is the president that you saw there. He is a man under authority, like you have in the Bible. Not selected authority, total authority. He is bound by the president, presidential directive. If he had a meeting in the Congress, in the conference hall of FCT, it's the president that had that meeting. If he comes to this studio to do a one-on-one with you or with a group of media, it's the president, not him, the minister. So these attacks on weekend, please get off it. He's answerable to the president who has permitted him to do his will. So in that sense, you find the situation where exam public service rules domiciled in the presidency is very clear. And I read this to you, it's important for Nigerians. As a public servant, on Revolution Weekend, require explicit permission from his appointing authority, the CNC, before granting media interviews or issuing press statements. This to ensure that information disseminated is accurate, official, and consistent with presidential interests, FGM policy for national security reasons, particularly national stability. You have the chief of staff to the president. He's a gatekeeper. He keeps all the ministers, all the advisors in check. You have Hadiza, Balosman, you know that. Monitoring, evaluation, supervision. Every minister's statement must be carefully read by the presidential team. Every statement must be carefully vetted. Sometimes they even dictated to him. They even give him the text what to say. So if you see a minister appearing in public, grandstanding, talking, it is not the minister. It is the president. The minister has no life of his own except with his wife and children, Barakbon meetings with his village. Every other thing he does at the behest of the president.
All right. I'm sure that Ayo certainly want to take you up on that. Ayo, over to you.
So, Prof, just two very quick issues because I know that we are running out of time on this conversation already. And I'd like you to speak to them as quickly as you can. First of all, this limitless, endless PDP crisis, isn't it an admittance in a way that the PDP cannot manage its own affairs? And I mean, you are an expert in political affairs. Internal political issues shouldn't be a problem for a party that's been in existence, according to them, since 1998. And then added to that, the call by the chairman of the party, at least the chairman of the party from the convention in Ibadan, calling on the United States of America foreign body to come save Nigeria's democracy. How has an internal affair of a political party become an issue that another foreign government is expected to come intervene in?
Okay, very important questions Ayo you put across to me. Let me tackle them quickly and decisively. On number one, I've talked several fora, several platforms that conflicts are very organic and very important in the life of a party, in the life of organizations, in the life of individuals or group of individuals. There's nothing wrong with having conflict. Conflict actually is an opportunity for you to solve a problem. So PDP is not like caught in a mess of unending crisis because it loves it so. If you have factional infighting in a party, it's normal. But how you manage it is very important. Even the Labour Party in Britain in power has factional issues with the Prime Minister struggling here and there. The problem is when you have an external force bearing down on the party, and it is very clear. Like the issue of the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, I have nothing in terms of personal relationship with him or against him. Bala Mohammed was a minister in 2010 from ANPP, appointed by a sitting PDP president. And the president, from the information available to me, said, stay in your party for a little while, be comfortable before you come to me. He stayed months as an ANPP minister of FCT, not just a small ministry, FCT, then decamped to PDP, as it should be. So when President Bola Ahmed appointed Nyesom Wike as a minister of FCT from the PDP, he has a right to hang in around there for a little while and then move straight on to APC, where his president is. If not, you see what is going on. He's going to Udenta Plaza as a member of PDP. He's working with the president of APC, who he wants re-elected. That kind of crisis will not end. What if you have a crisis between people who believe in the autonomy of space of PDP, who don't have any other force of power on top of them, beating over them like a dog, like a son of Damocles? The party can resolve the crisis. But when you have important individuals within the party who do not want to let go, at the same time want to enjoy the cake they've already eaten, the party PDP is a party now not out of power, struggling to survive, as it were. APC is the party in power, bloated, and gorging itself on political governance and everything. If the minister, for example, has not gone on to APC, PDP is okay, now we can sort our problems internally. But because he wants his president to be re-elected 2027, that's why you find him, the president, at Udenta Plaza. It is not the wiki at Udenta Plaza. It's the president of the country. If not, you have sanctioned him today. You have to remove him from office or sanction him. But because he's not going to do so, it is him that is there.
All right.
Number two.
Mr. Udenta, just before you move to number 2, let me quickly bring in our correspondent, Friday Okerigbe, who is currently at the PDP Secretariat in Wadata Plaza in Wuse too. Friday, it's good to see you again this morning. I see that you are not wearing a vest. Is all at peace at the Wadata Plaza this morning?
Thank you so much. Definitely, I'm not set with the at this point because nothing like what happened yesterday is actually happening. This is empty the position on site here. But we just noticed that the police has cut off the with very with barbed wires, a lot of barbed wire around the building to prevent anybody and then access into the building. So primarily, as the police has sold orders the headquarters of the People's Democratic Party. They just by sending the just of the barbed wire that were laying. I don't know. I wish with a put camera and like 6 or 5 feet high, and the trenches around the building, which we will not be less maybe 200 meters the length of the bar which they using the cooling of the building. So that is the situation. No member of either group claiming the leadership of the party are here, whether the principals or the supporters of them is side at this point.
All right, Friday, we really struggle to hear what it is that you are saying, but I think that we can see that right behind you, we can see that barbed wire has been laid on the ground. I think that's what you're trying to show us. Perimeter fencing of barbed wire has now been laid around the PDP Wadata Plaza, as our correspondent Friday Okerigbe is currently showing to us. Well, Friday, we'll see how we can work on your audio, and perhaps we can have you back to, give us a very clear description of what it is that you're currently seeing on the ground. But thank you for your reporting. Professor Udenta, you were saying that place should have been shut down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
My take even on the Turaki-led, ESCO of the party is that, look, as symbolic as it is, it's important to have your Wadata Plaza because the symbolism of the party's power, majesty, and influence. I ran AD, and Alliance for Democracy, for 6 months from a hotel room when it was fashionable infighting. I'm used to fashionable infighting in parties. It's not like a big deal. Where you are as a secretariat is where you are is where the secretariat is. So if there's going to be conflict or confusion or combustible situation or bloodshed at Wadata Plaza, shut it down. They shut down so yesterday, but permitting that Anyanwu faction in the early morning, this CP or the DCP or whoever led that charge should be called to order. Then on the issue of this externalization of our democratic struggles at home, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. 2014, Jonathan suffered Chibok, remember, kidnap. Bring Back the Gears was born at Unity Plaza, which has been gated, shut down by the DSS today. He can't even protest anymore. He allowed the protest. Michelle Obama wore a T-shirt globally. She popularized it. Again, Kerry came to Nigeria. And the governors of APC, the point is that America is a big power. Nigeria has this mentality that when a big power is there watching over you, like Christian genocide and so on, appeal to them to come and help you. That the other side, like already the presidency reacting, maybe in fright, maybe in panic with all the genocide issues on their neck. So now PDP is talking about genocide of democracy. Yes, he's calling that because the party is desperate. He wants be on their neck. Let our neck, let us breathe. My final take is that maybe those in the presidency do not even know the powers of the president. It covers all the ministers. Maybe the minister and his team don't even know that he can't come on the studio and speak anyhow. You're speaking for the president. He's actually the president. So next time around, it will not be this conversational or this enlightening. Gloves will be off. And we call the president to order. Whenever the minister comes, we say, no, it's not the minister here. It is the president of the Federal Republic who is there talking or doing the stuff he's doing.
All right, Professor Udenta, we have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise today. This one, we wish we had a little more time, but sadly we don't. He's the founding national secretary of the Alliance for Democracy. Thank you so much for
speaking with us this morning. Glad to be with you as always.
Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, this conversation continues, particularly around Nigeria's democracy, as the APC, as Professor Udenta noted, is expanding and the PDP continues to struggle for internal supremacy. In just a moment, please stay with us.